had a woman chairman for many years. I mean, they have on and off, depending on who the chairman is, but many years ago they had a woman chairman. No big deal. But then there's these other little bits here and there. What about women readers? That's part of what goes on at the worship service. And there's quite a few of us, there's a thing in the official teaching of the Missouri Synod right now is that's we don't really see anything in Scripture to prohibit women readers in the congregation, but pastors ought to be aware of what the usage is in the local church. So some of us are, what we do is we do things like I do, and I'll say, I've invited Pam Reese to come up in front of me. And so that way we have women readers, but for somebody who might still be wondering about it, it looks like Pam has not come up just because she's Pam and she says, get aside, Buster, I'm going to read this lesson. But I've actually invited her to do that, and that's part of, the chain of command, if you will, sort of thing. And so I even have taken that the next step and invite people like Amelia to come up and read. It's like, if women are going to be readers, then why not have young girls and boys to be readers also, because they need to learn how to get up in front of people and read, and they do. And you guys know, if you've been here long enough, you guys know, in past years when we had kids in a drama club, I loved having the kids in a drama club because they know how to read, they know how to project. Kelly Winklebauer, Jess Bennett, our son Matt, they got up and read. No problem. And there again, that goes to, okay, so you got somebody who can read and pronounce and speak well in front of people, or are you going to say, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that because you're a girl. We're going to have to get some guy who can barely, the words tumble out of his mouth and nobody can understand him because he's a man. That just doesn't, And then it makes everybody uncomfortable when they're in that situation. So, and I'll tell you this too, I've hung around a lot of pastors of all kinds of denominations. I've been hanging around in Ashland. The women pastors, my experience, my observation has been the women pastors are just as effective and more so in some ways than the male pastors. They're just as good. And they're even better in some respects than the male pastors are. They just are. So. All right. So this is pretty much it for the Lutherans. As I said, those guys are in that neighborhood. The Wisconsin is kind of on this side of us in this neighborhood. There's several others along in this part of the neighborhood. A couple of Norwegians and several others, several small denominations. So in some respects, Missouri Synod is kind of middle of the road. But even in the Missouri Synod, we're kind of stretched out because there are some people who wish we would be a little more that way, and there are other people who wish we would be a little more that way. So, I feel like some days I'm being stretched out like this in both directions. I got to tell you this though. I was at a synodical convention. Well, I've always gone as an advisory delegate, which means I sit in the back of the room and make bad jokes with the other advisory delegates. So I was at the synodical convention a number of years ago, and I don't remember but these guys were going at it hammer and tongs on the floor. It's something that was absolutely ridiculous. They were back and forth at microphones. And I leaned over to the guy next to me and I said, we ought to just call it quits with this nonsense and discuss something really significant, like whether we should ordain practicing homosexuals. He just looked at me and said, shut up. That was 10 years before the ELCA started doing this, And I was like,
and now look at it.
yes, and now look at it, So anything else we want to do yet this morning on the Lutherans? Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up with the Lutherans, and we're going to go on and attempt to deal with the Catholics next week.